hey, yeah, hi. Welcome to this week's episode of Tales from the Crisps, the podcast about crisps, which is a very difficult thing to define because you have potato crisps, you have maize snacks, you have things where they've taken potatoes and flattened them into circles. There's all kinds of things that fall under that banner, but the two of us are here to, yeah, absolutely, the two of us are here to provide our own spin on it. We're not trying to provide definitions. We're just trying to provide food for thought, snacks for thought about the wonderful world of crisps. My name, as always, is Josie Hypatia Grounds, and seated to my right, yeah, Henry's there as always to counteract my foghorn-like verbosity with pithy comebacks and a pin to puncture my verbosity, let's say. Before we, I'm at pains to. I know it's. Yeah, no, you're quite right, Henry. Yeah. I do often ramble on before we even get to telling our listeners what crisps we're going to eat, but I feel like there is something I have to get off my chest, which has happened this week. I will always be aware of the fact that I am a transgender person who I was assigned male at birth, and then as I grew up, I realised that I was actually happier living as a woman. And it's you, Henry. You're the person who you've helped me along with this. You signed the deed poll document to help me change my name, and it was very, very kind of you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm the same person essentially, and you help me, and it's really interesting that I now have. I feel like I've got the confidence in myself to be able to do a podcast where you can't see who I am, and I've put a lot of effort into looking feminine to the extent that I want to, but my voice is still very much not feminine, but in some ways, but I'm always reminded of one of my heroines, B. Arthur from the Golden Girls, who had a very, very low-pitched voice. But anyway, that's beside the point. However, I don't think it's appropriate to assign a child with a very strict idea, a very, very binary idea of gender when they're born. So I was a little bit sad this week. Someone on my Facebook feed who is not someone I see particularly often. I'm guessing they're not the kind of person who's going to listen to this, but yeah, no, you're quite right, Henry. Who in their right mind would listen to this? It's a masochistic act. But yeah, this person on my Facebook feed had posted a few months ago that they were pregnant, and fair play to them. That's okay. I mean, overpopulation is an issue, but if you've chosen to bring a child into this world, that's great, and I hope you do a good job of it. But apparently, she was due to go and have a scan of her unborn child, and at that scan, as a lot of parents want to know, some choose not to, but a lot of parents want to know what biological sex their child is going to be. Although, the difference that makes at the initial stage is pretty much zero. Yes, supposedly you should get blue clothes or pink clothes, but that seems a little bit redundant. You could get them anything; they wouldn't care what they were wearing. You could get them a dinosaur costume or an origami folded model of a bird and put them in that, and they would be none the wiser. They really don't care. They don't really develop the ability to count as human until they're at least 1 or 2 years old. But this person on my Facebook feed had put, really excited, in 2 days' time, I'm going to find out the gender of my baby. And my instant reaction to that was, no, you're not. You're going to find out the biological sex of your baby, absolutely, but you're not going to find out the gender of your baby for some years to come. And there was a part of me that, you want to stick your oar in, you want to make your opinions known, and I did feel like, should I reply to this? Should I say, well, no, actually, you're not going to find out the the sex of the gender of your baby at this point in time. You're going to have to wait some time, and your child will tell you their gender when they are aware of it themselves. And anyway, does that matter? And I was gonna post that, and then I thought, no, this is an argument I don't want to get into. This is someone who is experiencing great joy about creating life, and I don't want to be the person who spoils that. I don't want to make myself seem mean-spirited, really. So I didn't. I just left it, and it had 2 or 3 likes on the Facebook post. And I thought, well, that's fair enough. But of course, because more people were subsequently liking it, it kept on kind of popping up, and I kept on seeing it, and people were commenting on it and saying, "Oh, that's great! Let us know as soon as you know." And I was just thinking, "Oh, this," and totally separately, I posted a Facebook update of my own about an interesting train that I'd seen, and in a single day, my interesting train got nearly 40 likes, and in 3 or 4 days, this Facebook friend, in inverted commas, of mine received something like 25 likes, and so essentially I won, and that showed her. But by comparison, my cherished, interesting train is more important to the world at large than her unnecessarily gender-profiled baby. I felt like I had to get that off my chest, Henry. I hope you don't mind. No, that's good. I feel like a lot of what this podcast has turned into, it's we start off with crisps, with snacks, and from those snacks we move into other subjects of conversation. It's I think it's helpful to me to have you there to talk to about things that are of concern to me. It's I hope that there are times when you can say things to me that I could perhaps give you a helping ear, listen to what you've got to say, and it's a two-way process. And I think it would be a bizarre world if all of us just had to sit and talk to ourselves for minutes on end without someone to listen to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, and it's nice of you to say that. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Well, yeah. Of course, that is one way to look at it. Anyway, so did you want to? Yeah. Okay. So. So. Do you want to open the? Okay. Yeah. So we'll open the. So this week we've got a fairly well-known type of crisps, as you can now hear me manipulating, as well as talking. There's always the little sounds of us manipulating, the two of us manipulating bags of crisps and crunching away at things. So I'm sure our regular listeners are used to that. There's a very definite kind of format to this podcast of two people eating crisps. There's a power dynamic between the two of us. One of us is the unnecessarily hoity-toity, overly learned one. The other one is the pop culture expert who brings. I wish you were still here, Henry. I wish we hadn't eaten those roulette Doritos last week, and I wish you hadn't. I think I might be going through the 5 stages of grief. I was in denial. I was imagining that Henry was still here to talk to, but it's clearly not. It's clearly not the case. He's not responding to anything I say. I'm leaving gaps where I imagine he might say something, and there's nothing. It's just silence. I'm talking to a corpse. It's just Henry's lifeless body sat on the other sofa, just where I left him last week after the the tragic. It makes me so. Oh, it frustrates me that it's taken me this long to come to terms with it. I've been in denial. The first stage of grief, as defined by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in her seminal 1969 work on death and dying. I've been in denial. I've been going about my life as if Henry was still here to talk to me, and he's not. It's just me, and a short, rotting man with crisps on his eyes where I put them when he died. Oh. I mean, why did this have to happen? We were going so well. We'd done 4 half-decent podcasts, and then in the 5th week, Henry went and got roulette Doritos, where every 7th Dorito has Tabasco sauce on it, and I don't know if maybe he was allergic to Tabasco, but I feel like I cursed him. I was the one who suggested that the Doritos roulette was actually modelled after Russian roulette, and that maybe he would eat one that would ultimately kill him. I wish I hadn't even come up with that idea. It was a stupid idea. I felt like our conversation was sagging at the time, and I thought that if I gave an artificial time limit, if I gave an amount of jeopardy to it, I mean, I blame myself. I'm so peed off. I'm effed off with myself. I've got S for brains. I'm a total C. That's the sound of me being angry. I'm not very good at being angry. I found that out when I went to see a counsellor. Not very angry. But I don't know what I'm gonna. I wish I had a sense of smell. I suppose then I'd have noticed the rotten meat sat over there, gradually decaying, like the seminal B-side Ghost Haddock by the 90s band Strangelove. Eyeballs popping out and maggots crawling out of armpits. I should have known. I couldn't. What do I do? By the way, listeners, I'm now on stage 3 of the DABDA system. So we start off with denial, then we have anger. That was me being angry, and now we're on to bargaining. Okay, I'm just hanging a lampshade on this so you know that I am structuring this in a very intentional and kind of hokey kind of way. Just I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. So yeah, 3rd stage bargaining. So now I've got to right. Okay, so just going to get myself into that mode. Okay. So, please, why could they not have taken me instead of taking him? Why did it have to be you, Henry? Why have you been taken away from me? I would do anything to get you back. Maybe later on I'll figure out some contrived way of getting you back, but before then, I'm going to open this bag of Skips. Now, Skips are a crisp that I don't think Henry was particularly fond of Skips, but his means of obtaining items for this podcast is slightly abstract. Sometimes he will make a decision of a crisp that he'd like us to investigate, but for the most part, I think he just goes to the nearest corner shop and sees what's cheapest. So this packet of Skips is actually reduced. It was 60p and it's gone down to 25p. But still within the range of the best before date. These are 11 days from their best before point. So I'm not worried about any kind of poisoning happening to me this week, because we've already had a 50% reduction in podcasters because of, I don't know, I mean, are Doritos a form of natural causes? Or, I mean, if there were an autopsy here, if Gunther von Hagens was presenting a live autopsy of Henry, would crisps be to blame? Would my power of suggestion be to blame? I'm not sure. But certainly I'm not going to respond to Henry's death by turning it into some kind of murder-suicide pact. So these are skips. They are in tingly prawn cocktail flavour. I'm not sure if skips have always specified that their prawn cocktail flavouring is tingly in some way. Tingly to me suggests an unwanted sensation. When you get tingles in some of your fingers, like for example, if your little finger and your ring finger start tingling, that's an indication that there's something wrong with the ulnar nerve going down your arm, and it might be a symptom of cubital tunnel syndrome. Cubital tunnel syndrome is similar to carpal tunnel syndrome. Of course, the carpal is your wrist. So the carpal tunnel is, the carpus is the wrist, carpal is the adjective describing the wrist. The carpal tunnel is a structure in the wrist through which nerves travel. There's a similar one in the elbow called the cubital tunnel. So if you lean on your elbow for too long, or if you sleep on your elbow, or if you, I'm tempted to say if you hold a device such as a telephone up to your face for too long, keeping that elbow bent, that causes compression of the tunnel through which the nerves travel past the elbow, and that affects the sensation in the two fingers on the end that the little finger is on. And I've had that a few times because of the way I sleep in bed. I sleep on my front. I fold one arm up under myself to give myself a bit of elevation so I don't suffocate in the pillow, and I wake up sometimes with tingling fingers. So it's a problem I'm aware of. So describing a crisp in terms of tingliness is to me suggestive that maybe someone has slept on these skips and caused some kind of neural damage to them. I hope that's not the case. I hope the skips have a completely intact neurovascular function. I hope that they are... Do you know what? I don't hope that they are living and breathing, because that would be terrifying. I'd be eating a life form, a little kind of jellyfish, tiny little jellyfish head. That's what these skips look like. They look slightly... I feel this with a lot of classic crisps that I haven't had for a long time. It's not that they're a different size, the classic shrinkflation curly-whirly issue. It's not that they've reduced the size of skips. It's just that the skips seem very different. Maybe I'm noticing different details about them now. They are a pentagonal shape. Well, they are. I say pentagonal. They're a curved. They're almost like a little floret with 5 sides, 5 segments. I feel like the lines delineating the 5 segments of the skip, I'm sure they used to be a lot stronger, a lot easier to see. They're still there, but they're not as clear as I remember them. But of course, the nostalgia, the hindsight, the Proustian experience of remembering an event is never the same as actually reliving it. So I can see that these skips are promising something. There is a skips promise on the front, and they've promised that there are no artificial colours, flavours, that they're cooked with 100% sunflower oil, and there's no MSG in them. So it's nice. I don't know how much I trust a snack, but I'm being asked to, and so I suppose I've got to dive in with that. Skips are the fizzy, light and melty, tongue-tingly snack. Experience the tingle, balance the skip on your tongue and let it melt in your mouth. Now, I did try this previously in a previous episode of the podcast with a What's-It. I tried balancing a What's-It on my tongue to let it melt in my mouth. I chose, of course, to have my tongue outside of my mouth, so I don't know, maybe the position of the What's-It should have been further back, but I feel like that would have triggered my gag reflex. But I will... Again, I feel like I'm being challenged by the skips packet to try to experience it in the way it's a serving suggestion, let's say, like the bowl of cereal on the front of a box of cereal. That's just a serving suggestion. You don't have to eat cereal from a bowl. You can eat it from the packet, straight from the packet. Something I certainly used to do with the multi-packs of small boxes of cereals, the I would take some of those on walking holidays. I would then buy a small 1 pint bottle of milk, and rather than dirtying a bowl and a spoon, I would just open the bag inside the packet, pour the milk in, and then just kind of pour the milky cereal back into my throat. Things were different then. I was obviously a much less refined human being. So yeah, I'm going to try balancing this skip on my tongue. I'm not sure if the microphone was picking up the actual fizz sound there. It went on for only a few seconds before the skip stopped melting and just kind of stuck to my tongue, causing a very unpleasant sensation, and I was almost compelled to take it into my mouth. Interestingly, I didn't know this. I've just discovered that that these crisps. I mentioned earlier that we review crisps, and crisps is a very broad church. There are the standard potato crisp. There are the potato-based snacks, such as a Pringle, where potatoes have been, I guess, mashed up and then turned into Pringles. I don't know. I'm not. This is research that will happen in the future. I will find out all of these things in time. And then you have the maize snacks and the corn snacks. But it would appear that skips are made of tapioca starch. That's very interesting. The main ingredient is tapioca starch, and they describe themselves. And as in everything, with people, with products, with animals, if that entity is able to describe itself, I buy into that. I let those self-descriptions dictate how I feel about things. And so skips self-identify as prawn cocktail flavoured tapioca snacks. Now, tapioca strikes me as a very kind of old-timey pudding item, I guess. It's kind of a fine, mushy, like it's more fine pellets than something like porridge, I guess. So it's a kind of porridgey, soupy kind of. It is gross, essentially. I think I may have had it at school, but it's not something I would hunt out in the supermarket aisles. But people are probably. I wonder what percentage of the global tapioca industry is used in the production of skips. I wonder where do other tapioca products? Are there other tapioca products that are unknown to me, that are hidden in sight? Maybe secretly there's perhaps a Mars bar is 90% tapioca, but it's not telling you, or some kind of strange vegetarian simulation bacon made out of tapioca. I just don't know. But I know for sure that this is a tapioca snack from the KP Snacks Corporation. I'm just going to put another one onto my tongue and see how long it takes for it to dissolve. And seeing as I'm in the bargaining section of this grief cast, I'm going to put it on my tongue for 1 minute. I'm going to remain silent for that minute. I would hope that Henry's spirit is floating in the room and will be filling in that gap with its poltergeist vibes. And perhaps if I manage to keep this skip on my tongue for a whole minute, and it doesn't cause me to violently be sick, then maybe that will somehow summon Henry back from the beyond. Here we go. Halfway through there. Another 30 seconds. This is not recommended. 15 seconds. Hello? I at home who ho ha who Well, that was horrendous. That was not an experience I will repeat. It fizzed. The skip fizzed for about 3 seconds. And then kind of settled. Because my tongue was stuck out with it on, I started then salivating, and the saliva slightly dissolved it, but not enough for it to get any further, much considerably further than it had in those first 3 seconds. And it ended up being a little bit like I always found very unpleasant the sensation of eating a macaroon with rice paper stuck on it. The idea of edible paper never really chimed with me. And skips, there's something papyrusy about them. That's ugh. Ugh. I maybe have been beaten by these. I don't know whether I want to carry on eating them. And that effort to through endurance, through a feat of strength, to somehow bargain with forces unknown, to bring my one of my greatest friends, one of my longest suffering companions, Henry, to bring him back from whence he has gone, was unsuccessful. I don't know. I just it makes me sad to think that all of the crisps that will be designed in the future, all of the flavour innovations, the structural breakthroughs that are made in crisp future will be unknown to Henry. There's a lot of it's bad enough that I always feel it's bad enough that events from the past are only available to us through the filter of history, through what is recorded and what is preserved, that there are people who lived full, brilliant lives that we know nothing of. I made a point when I was choosing my girl name that I wanted to somehow commemorate a historical female figure who had affected me in some way, and so I chose the middle name Hypatia, which is the name of a mathematician, astrologer from ancient Alexandria, who was the librarian of the Library of Alexandria when it was ultimately razed to the ground. I think it was destroyed, certainly, and a lot of the work in the Library of Alexandria was destroyed by religious extremists, and so the work of Hypatia of Alexandria is only known through people's accounts of her, through her students' reports, and all of the things that she is said to have done. The texts that she wrote are gone, they are lost, and so I have taken her name, and to an extent that is all that exists of her. None of her work stays on, and that's sad, but I would hope that as a culture we've learned from that mistake. You never know. It feels like in 2017 maybe things are going back in the way that they were when people rose up against the institutions of learning and destroyed great repositories of information, and maybe we're going back there, and that's terrible. And all of the people who lived in the past who are only half remembers, the unremembered, only the unmarked graves, the bones buried in battlefields all the world over, all of these people that have gone before, they are lost to us, but not as lost to us as the things that will happen in the future that we will never see, that we'll never be able to experience. We'll never know what the end of this experiment is, this experiment of evolution, this human game that is being played out with us as but a tiny piece. We're just a blinking of a cosmic eye. We're a nothing. We're a dot in a. We're a semicolon in James Joyce's Ulysses. We're a grain of sand on a sand sculpture of a Teletubby. We're a nothing. We're an atom in a swimming pool, and that swimming pool is too big and too complicated for that atom to ever fully understand it. I don't know. We try our best. We look at the small things that are around us and hope that through understanding a small fraction of the world, perhaps we can move it forward. Alfred Korzybski, was a semantics theoretician, I believe, who came up with the diagram of the structural differential. This is of course the kind of highfalutin nonsense that Henry would instantly shut down. This is the kind of thing you only get to hear me do when I'm left to my own devices, so alone. Alfred Korzybski's structural differential is an attempt to understand the codification of experience, of reality. There's a diagram that goes with it, which at the top has a parabola, a curved shape which extends off infinitely, and that is the totality of everything, the cosmos around us, the infinity of thought and possibility that we are a tiny dot inside of. So it's represented by the parabola because you can see the bottom of that curve, but you can never hope to understand the entirety of it. And below the parabola is the disk, which is the first connection, the selection of information that we are able to take from the totality of everything. And then below the disk come the labels, the interpretations of that, which happen in on various different levels in our brain. The interpretation of shapes to represent objects, the interpretation of groups of objects to represent structures and events and how things relate to each other in time, and tiny strings link all of these shapes, the parabola, the disk, the labels, and essentially the number of ways that these little strings can go from point to point and in these different shapes is so many-fold and various that we can never hope to understand even a fraction of everything, because everything can be integrated into itself in so many different ways. There are so many different permutations of thought that no one person, no one civilization perhaps can ever understand them. But the ray of light, I suppose, in the structural differential is that the labels that trail off from the top end of the system are shown to curve back in and reintegrate with the parabola. So interpretation in itself builds back into the totality of existence that is there to interpret. So even these small lives that we live, even these small breakthroughs that we make, even these small podcasts that we send out into the internet for 2, maybe 3 people to ever listen to, these have value. These are part of a cycle. And this cycling, these ideas being juggled back and forth, always make me think of the otter. The otter, fascinating animal. The animal that made the film Ring of Bright Water so beloved. The otters that, if I remember rightly, bit off some of Terry Nutkin's hands. It's the kind of thing that Henry would have revelled in. Terry Nutkins, Michaela Strachan, The Really Wild Show. But Terry Nutkins was I believe was a student of the original otter expert on whom Ring of Bright Water is based. I forget his name, but otters are fascinating. They jump up and down like a little whack-a-mole. They make squeaking noises that sound nothing like you'd imagine an otter would sound. It sounds like it sounds a little bit like Sweep from Sooty and Sweep, if I'm honest. Otters float down river on their backs, holding hands with their otter friends. And otters, the most interesting thing that otters do is otters juggle. They lie on their backs. They get 2, maybe sometimes 3 small pebbles, and they throw those pebbles from hand to hand. They juggle them about in very, very complex systems. It's, as an external observer, it seems like the otter is playing, but does an animal at that scale understand the idea of play? Does it experience a kind of abstract enjoyment in doing something seemingly essentially useless? And in terms of my understanding of Darwin's theory of evolution, why would an otter survive because of its ability to play? What about that activity has made otters who juggle more likely to survive than otters who don't juggle? Why have we ended up with juggling otters? Why haven't we ended up with otters that play poi or otters that do hacky sack? Why is juggling the behaviour that they exhibit? And while I'm watching primarily YouTube videos of otters juggling, because I haven't yet got round to visiting the Buckfast Otter Sanctuary and Butterfly experience, very near to Buckfast Abbey, where they make the beloved drink of alcoholics Scotland over, Buckfast. Although I very much would love to go to the Buckfast Otter Sanctuary and pay all of the money that is necessary to have an all-day otter experience, where you get to sit in the little pool with the otters, and you get to give them their food, and you get to give them a little wash, and the otters are your friends, and hopefully they don't bite off any of your fingers, and everything's lovely and happy, and the otters pose for selfies with you, and it's great. But yeah, when I'm watching the otters that I have befriended, well, the otters that I've decided to stalk on YouTube, because there are good otter videos and there are bad otter videos. I think it's true with all nature videos. A nature video with someone talking over it, that's fair enough. You might learn something. A nature video with music on top of it, pretty annoying. What you want is a nice pure video of an animal doing something with the original sounds attached to it. Excellent. I like to imagine that the videos I watch of otters juggling have been filmed by other otters who have so entranced some naturalist who has gone to view them in the wild that naturalist has decided that he can trust that otter to have a tiny little GoPro style video camera so he can film his friend the otter. I want to imagine that I am an otter and I'm watching my fellow otter juggling, lying on its back with its 2 little rocks, juggling them about. And the fascinating thing about the otter juggling, beyond the fact that I can't understand why the otter does that, I can't conceive, much as I think for hours at end about what advantage a juggling otter would have over a non-juggling otter. Is this a mating ritual whereby otters see their fellow otters juggling and think, well, that one's quite skilled. I think I would definitely have children with that otter because, well, they'd be great for the parties, for the kids' parties, for the young otters. That would be a real boon. We wouldn't have to hire in an external entertainer, get an otter clown in. No, we'd just get, the parent could do the entertainment. It'd be fantastic. Yeah, they could pass on that skill to. I mean, they could be a travelling entertainer. They could, in fact, maybe I could hire them out to other baby otter parties. That would be fantastic. Maybe that is something that is appealing to otters of the opposite persuasion. In the same way that, for some reason, large upper arms are attractive on men are attractive to some women, and large chests are attractive on some women to some men. And all of these permutations, large-chested men are attractive to some men, large-armed women are attracted to some women, large-bottomed men, large-bottomed women, some of those might be attractive, or attracted to other people with maybe large knees, or perhaps one big earlobe, an eyeball falling out of the skull, rotting foot. All of these things could be attractive. In otters, though, maybe juggling is attractive. We just don't know. Probably someone knows. I just don't know. The thing that is more fascinating to me, though, than the juggling itself is that when the otter has finished juggling, he sometimes selects a pebble from from the ones he's been juggling with to save for later, to keep as his preferred juggling rock. And he puts it in the armpit, under his arm, and I think you can imagine if you were to take maybe if you were a squash player and you had a favourite squash ball, you could probably put that under your armpit and walk around with it. As long as you didn't go to hug anyone and drop it, the otter would keep it there. And yeah, the thing that I then start to wonder is if an otter is choosing a favourite rock, what favourite pebble, what criteria is the otter judging that pebble on? Is the otter judging it in terms of how well it moves, or is there an aesthetic value to it? Is he looking at these pebbles and saying, well, I like the shape of this one. It's a little bit like a bean. I like bean-shaped rocks. It's much better than this old rock I had. That old rock was much more spherical, and I feel like spherical rocks are on the way out this season. I want the bean rock. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the sphere one. I'm keeping the bean one. Pop it under my armpit. On with my day. And I realised that the pebble that the otter is juggling and then saving for later, keeping under his armpit, is a metaphor for my thoughts about the otters. I'm playing around with ideas about otter juggling, and I'm thinking about why it might happen, what it might mean. Are otters critics with aesthetic judgments? Is there a genetic reason for this? Is it a learned behaviour that's passed down from parent to child? Do otters have birthday parties? All of these thoughts go around in my head, and then when I've had some fun with them, I pop them under my armpit, go about my day, and later on I'll bring that idea back out into the open and I'll discuss it with someone, or I'll think about it for myself. Obviously, it's more fun to talk to someone else, and I wish Henry was here to talk about, but his body's here, but his spirit has gone. He's passed on. He's crossed over. He's shuffled off this mortal coil. He's kicked the bucket. So who am I impressing with this pebble juggling? What am I doing? Why is this still going on? What is happening? The otter juggling a pebble is the pebble that I am juggling. But if an otter juggles a pebble and I juggle the idea of an otter juggling a pebble and no one is there to observe my juggling, is it worth it? And I don't know. But is anything worth it? Maybe I need to come to terms with this. Maybe I need to move on from stage 4 of the 5 stages of grief, which are available in fruit form now, because you have 5 fruit a day. That's required. You need to have 5 stages of grief. So try and make sure you mix up the types of fruit you have in a day. Don't just have 5 apples. That seems like a foolish idea. Try to have maybe an apple, some broccoli, an orange, maybe some pineapple chunks, and then finally you can have some peas at the end of that. I wouldn't imagine all of these in one meal, but throughout the day, spread them out. That's your 5 a day. And so if the apple is denial, and the broccoli is anger, and the orange is bargaining, and the 4th thing I said is depression, then I need to get on to the peas of acceptance. I need to find my inner peas and move on from this wallowing, this foolish discussion of semantics, structural differentials, otters juggling pebbles, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, tapioca, the gender of an unborn child. Maybe I need to just eat some more skips. Maybe that's what will help me. Maybe if I just... These taste stale. They're not out of date, but they taste stale. Interestingly, the Keep Britain Tidy epithet on the back of this packet above the barcode, I can't remember. I feel like the Keep Britain Tidy campaign was introduced during my lifetime, maybe in the 80s. They decided that the best way to suggest that people should put things in the bin, other than perhaps people being not arseholes, would be very small on the packaging of the food, would be to have a little drawing of a bin, a man with a circular head, not connected to his shoulders at all, a gap, a kind of severed slice at the waist, very pointy legs, and just one arm poking out, dropping the rubber. This strange, deformed man, that was the way to appeal to this strange, broken clip art man throwing rubbish away. That was the way to appeal it. So, I mean, fair enough. I think, it's good to try and make the world a better place. But I don't feel like it's making the world much better when the current version of that on this packet of skips is the same man with the circle head, no neck, severed at the waist, pointy 2 legs, 1 arm, seems to be throwing the rubbish into a floating bin? Oh, no, a bin that is suspended in midair, much like a basketball hoop. There's a little shadow underneath the severed head / waist man as he's doing this. And next to it, it doesn't say keep Britain tidy or clean up after yourself or throw away your rubbish, you degenerate fool. Don't just put it on the floor. That's rubbish. It should go somewhere that isn't on the floor. You're a rubbish person if you don't put your rubbish in the rubbish bin. What it says instead on this bag of skips is slam dunk your junk. And really, junk is not the standard English word for rubbish. It's rubbish. It's not garbage. It's not trash. It's rubbish. We throw away our rubbish, not our trash, not our garbage, not our junk. A junk is a form of boat, I believe, possibly a Chinese boat. Not 100% sure on that. And slam dunking, basketball. Basketball is not a well followed sport in this country. I really don't know what they're going for with this. But maybe the junk is my sadness. Maybe my grief is the junk that I need to slam dunk. Maybe I need to accept that I'm the only one that's left. And this is the 6th episode. It's quite common for sitcoms and drama series in this country to only have 6 episodes. In America, obviously, every series has to have 2014 episodes to fill all of the various television channels that they have over there. But over here, you can have a 6-episode series and that be it. Maybe this is the final episode. Maybe it's run its course. Maybe there's nothing more to do. Maybe these skips are the final crisps that I will ever eat. And as I look at the skip, this strange little shape that it is, I realise that there's something kind of mystical about it. It's got these kind of curved edges that make it look like the rosette of a Tudor monarch, but at the same time it's got these divisions, these veins that run from the centre to the edge. There are 5 of them, and I feel like if I were to snap the skip into 5 sections like this, I could reassemble it. I could turn the sections round and form a pentagram. I can form a little star shape out of this, 5-pointed star. There we go, perfect. And oh gosh, I feel strange. I feel there's a tingling. There's the 5-pointed, the skip's pentagram, the 5 letters of skips representing the 5 points of the star, representing the 5 directions, left, right, up, down, and inwards, representing the 5 elements as set out by Luc Besson in his film The 5 Elements, starring Bruce Willis. I feel a tingling. It's coursing through from my fingertips. The prawn cocktail, the tingly prawn cocktail flavour is on there. It's moving. It's coming up my arms. I'm being imbued with a strange sensation, a strange feeling of unnatural, superhuman power that is forcing words out of me that I've never previously said, and I feel like I've got an incantation coming on. Oh, the glowing pentagram, the words. Lirak, tasa fefa welik belial, renik tasa ubraka biasa ika Lucifer, ganik tasa fubin, flereos, yedan tasa hoetnaka leviathan, tasa remelaris Henry, tasa remelaris Henry, tasa remelaris Henry.
Hello, cheers, Josie.
Oh, hi, nice to have you back. See you next week then on Tales from the Crisps with me, Josie, and to my right, Henry.